Call this meeting to order at 12:06. So start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely.
Pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's move forward and start off with the roll call.
Elizabeth Alonso Villarreal,
Present.
George Narvaez,
Present.
Carlos Gordillo,
Present.
Hector Cortez, John C. Gaylor, Joel Benavides, D. Gonzalez,
Present.
Elia Guevara. There is a quorum.
Did you call Mr. Gaylor? The roll call? Oh, I didn't hear it.
No,
Yeah,
they
Oh,
did.
you did, okay, sorry.
Now, with that being said, we all have the minutes. Anybody take just a couple of seconds to review it? Any comments, any suggestions, any changes? If not, make a motion.
I'll motion to approve if there's no changes.
Second. Liz? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Move forward. All right, with citizens' comments, any citizens' comments, and just to remind, there's only 3 minutes per speaker. All right, man. Just for the record, we
And
got Mr. Galo showing up.
speaking of Mr. Gato,
No comments?
Okay, no comments?
No.
Nope.
Outstanding, all right. We move to staff report, but before we move forward, I just want to congratulate Ms. for making a permanent position now.
Thank
so
you, sir.
Congratulations.
Well deserved. I'm glad you're on board and we don't have any what's that, temporary. More than anything else, yeah. You got a target on your back now.
All right, well, moving with the staff reports, we would like to, first one, to have David Wingard from GRA and Mitch O'Connor, I think, on the last meeting, was not here. I'll just let them take over. I mean, on our end, we say we're very happy with the support that we're getting from GRA. They're always helpful on all the things we ask. It's basically more on the air development services and cost analysis. They do all those things for us. So with that being said, I'll just let Mitch and David to take over from here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alberto, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us today. We just have a very short slide presentation showing, some of the services that we provide to the airport, and I'll go through a couple of slides. I'll just introduce myself briefly. I'm the president of GRA. Been with the firm for about 8 years, and have been working with Laredo International Airport for a little over 6 years now. Mitch, do you want to just introduce yourself?
I've been supporting Laredo for about 6 years now, helping put together presentations and do other things to support the airport.
Okay. So let's see. I think I'm going to share this. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So like I mentioned, we've worked with Laredo since about 2016, and definitely appreciate the continued confidence here. One thing I just want to mention is, as I think you all know from working with the airport, air service development is not an instantaneous or immediate process. It takes time and building up relationships. Obviously, external events in the last few years, like COVID, have been challenging and have put on pause a few of the initiatives that we were hoping to pursue, but that we're now re-engaging in. We think that we provide a few different aspects of support. As we mentioned on the slide here, we have deep knowledge of the aviation industry. We work for government agencies like the FAA and a number of different airlines and airports, have very deep knowledge of data sources. Our work with the airlines, as well as the experience that a number of our key personnel, like myself and other GRA partners have in the airline industry, means that we know many of the key decision makers across the industry. Our FAA work gives us strong knowledge and expertise in the regulatory environment, and we have, as I said, contacts with government agencies like FAA, TSA, and CBP. We know how airlines evaluate routes. We know that obviously it ultimately comes down to profitability, and that we can put together a profit and loss for a potential route and a good route forecast. We also have a lot of expertise on air service incentives. We're currently working with FAA actually on revising their air service incentive policy. And like I mentioned, as part of our profit and loss modeling, we can estimate what kind of incentives would be needed in order for a new route to be profitable. As I mentioned, we've been with Laredo since 2016. Our initial assignment I think back when Chris was still the director, was to perform a passenger market study for demand to Mexico City and work to break the line. As you know, that was ultimately successful with Aeromar starting Laredo just about exactly 2 years ago. So we identified Aeromar as the most likely airline to serve the market and the best fit, given what we saw as the demand and matching with the airline's business model and fleet. We helped develop the business case, identify the key people to speak to at Aeromar, helped organize trips to Mexico City and Aeromar's visit to Laredo. And then we also assisted the airport and the city in ongoing negotiations because, as you know, the FAA requires the airport to kind of keep an arm's length from discussions on route subsidies or revenue guarantees. So we help be that liaison between the airline and the city. And we, over the 2 years that the flight has been operating, we help facilitate ongoing coordination with Aeromar. In fact, we just finished our monthly meeting with Aeromar to talk about how the flight is performing, and we helped renegotiate at a couple of points the contract with the city for the revenue guarantees and the ticket pre-purchase agreement.
David.
So that's, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, so how do you determine what a success is? I think what the city, spent up $900,000 the first year, and how much did we do this year? 700?
650,000.
650,000.
Yeah, that's a gap.
And I mean, do you think is it COVID or, because we don't see the ridership increasing any, and so how do we determine if that's a success? I mean, obviously, we got the airline here, but without the huge incentives, and like I said, I don't think it's taking off. It's not increasing ridership to where they'll ever be able to do without an incentive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. It is, I think, good that the incentive this year is lower than it was last year, so that's certainly a step in the right direction. But you're right, the route ridership has not been where we would like to see see it, or certainly where the airline would want to see it in order to be profitable. The load factor has generally been in the 25 to 30% range. Aeromar is a little bit different because of their cost structure than some other airlines. Like if we were talking about United or American, they would probably need about a 70% load factor to be profitable. Or maybe even higher, depending on the fares. The Aeromar break even is a little bit lower. It's a bit lower than that, but still, 25 to 30% isn't good enough. Part of that is COVID. I think we really thought that there would be a lot more business traffic from Laredo on the route than there has been over the last couple of years. So I think it's an open question how much of that business traffic is going to return. So that's one piece of it. I think the other piece is, of course, what fuel prices did earlier this year in the spring and early summer. That was why Aeromar came back to the city to renegotiate the contract in July. Originally the subsidy was going to go down from about $900,000 to around $400,000 for this current year. They did come back and ask for more money because of fuel prices that have been hurting the industry as a whole. So I guess big picture, the subsidy is lower this year than it was in the first year. We're going to have to talk with them about what the route looks like going forward. But ultimately, to be successful, I think we need that business traffic from the city to come back.
And let me ask, because we had a pretty healthy discussion last month, about, maybe direct flights to Cancun, which they used to have here a long time ago, or maybe Orlando or something, Disneyland, something that, I don't know if any of these providers have those, once a week, twice a week, kind of like the Allegiant does to Vegas.
Yeah, and just let me go ahead and answer part of that question. That's part of the services that GRA and David provide, and as a matter of fact, we're going for those type of meetings this weekend. We're gonna go to Las Vegas. They'll meet us over there, and we have several meetings with Southwest. We do have Southwest. We even have some cargo meetings with Amazon Air, UPS, DHL, and some other companies. We're looking to meet also with Sun Country and Frontier, and we also have Allegiant. We're trying to get back the Orlando fly, as you mentioned.
Okay.
But that's ongoing, and like David mentioned at the beginning, it's not an easy task. It's just keep knocking on the doors, and maybe someday.
Does McAllen, I know it's a different environment, but do they subsidize, Southwest is in there?
That I don't
Southwest is not in McAllen.
Or is it United? Somebody's
no,
there.
but
I think it's
yeah, United is there. But yeah, I guess it is important to say that subsidies are pretty common for new routes these days. I know Harlingen just did a subsidy in the last year for, I think it was American. McAllen certainly did subsidies for Aeromar when they started back in 2012, and they have done those subsidies again over the years as Aeromar has needed them. So it is kind of the name of the game.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, but at some point you're going to say, well, we'll cut our losses and say, you know what, if we're only getting, if you don't achieve certain ridership, we don't need to be paid. I think the problem is here, Nuevo Laredo is just so close compared to some of the other border cities And it's,
Right.
and the brokers and everybody are just as happy going across the river and taking that flight, you know, versus.
Right. I mean, ultimately, the question on these is like, you know, for any city expenditure, it's whether the benefit of having a direct flight from Laredo to Mexico City is worth the cost. Right. So there's some economic impact, obviously, that flight brings, but ultimately, if people aren't using it, or you know, you decide that it's not worth that, or the city decides it's not worth that investment, you know, that's certainly a decision that you could make at some point.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's actually a great lead into what Mitch was going to talk about, which is some of the other the other stuff that we do besides working with Aeromar. So Mitch, let me hand it off to you to talk through these next couple of slides.
Right, so kind of the foundation of what we do kind of starts with the quarterly reports that we prepare for the airport. So we analyze all kinds of different air service data from different sources. So that'll tell us things like how many passengers want to travel from Laredo to where, what the average fares are. And then another piece of data that we analyze is the leakage data. So leakage basically means people that live in Laredo or near Laredo, and then they drive to, say, San Antonio or Austin to fly from there rather than flying from Laredo. So we look at that data pretty closely, and we look at where those passengers are flying to that are driving to San Antonio or Austin or another airport. And from there, we're able to use that information to prepare, you know, kind of business cases for different airlines for why, you know, we think that there is more demand from Laredo to go to different places than the just looking at the data directly from the government sources might suggest. So like Gilberto mentioned, we're meeting with airlines like Allegiant, for example, when we're in Las Vegas the coming week, and we prepare presentations that try to show that you know, there is demand for that route. For example, you know, Laredo on Allegiant. So we're preparing presentations for that. And a little bit related to the leakage data that I just mentioned, we've helped support Laredo Airport with preparing the application for the Small Community Air Service Development Program. And so what that is, that's a federal grant that gives money to small communities to either retain existing air service or to try to attract new air service. And Laredo was successfully applied for a grant, which was awarded back a couple months ago. And so that's for $250,000 in marketing support that can be used to support existing air service from, you know, American United, because it has to be used for U.S. domestic services. But that money can help support hopefully trying to reduce that leakage a little bit and trying to get people to fly local out of Laredo. That's currently on Laredo's airport website. And basically what that tries to do is show travelers in the Laredo area that it might actually be cheaper for them in the long run to fly out of Laredo rather than driving, incurring the gas expense, the mileage, the tolls, and then the time to drive to, say, San Antonio or Austin. So kind of all those things work together to try to, you know, both retain the existing service that Laredo has and hopefully attract some new service in the future.
Excuse me, this is George, not right? I have a question. You mentioned that you have a program or some type of data where you can collect information of people who drive to San Antonio, then fly from there to other places. What type of data is that? How can you gather that type of data? Because you have no control of how the person drives to San Antonio and then gets on a plane. How do you know that he doesn't live in San Antonio?
Right, so that's a great question. So So Laredo actually purchases the data from a third party, vendor that their full-time job is aviation data. And this is a relatively new product that they developed a few years ago. And what they do is they take the data that airlines are required to report to the government, the federal government. They take that data on, how many passengers are flying between which airports. But then what they do is they use population data. San Antonio and Austin, to say Orlando, for example. They don't all live in San Antonio and Austin, so they try to use both population data, and then they also look at internet search data. So basically looking at people that, are on their computer, they search for a flight from, say, Austin to Orlando or something. And from that internet search data, they can see that that computer is located in the Laredo area. So Austin or San Antonio to a different city actually live in the Laredo area. And they kind of, they use different calculations to figure that out. But the feedback that we've gotten from airlines at these meetings is that they think that that the process is pretty good, that it's fairly accurate, because the airlines, of course, they can tell, they know where everybody lives based on the credit card billing data that they get, which isn't, unfortunately, widely available for airports or consultants to purchase. So this is kind of the best alternative that's out there available to us to try to figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
A few different sources of data that we receive, including from Department of Transportation, the leakage data that we just talked to. And then over the last few years, there's been a few times where we've helped the airport develop surveys of departing passengers from Laredo to find out kind of where they live, where they travel to, and other information. That helps us, again, prepare these presentations for airlines to try to attract new service. And finally, this is kind of just an overall summary of, the different efforts that are currently ongoing. On the left side here, we're always monitoring the performance of the existing domestic routes, Allegiant, American, and United. As David mentioned, there's ongoing discussions, monthly meetings with Aeromar related to support for that service, and then the upcoming schedules for the next year. And Gilberto mentioned Frontier and Sun Country. Those are two lower cost carriers that tend to operate, 2 or maybe 3 times a week between leisure destinations. So that's another potential target for Laredo Air Service. Southwest, we've met with, at pretty much all of the past conferences that Laredo's attended. Coming from where they want to go, and then also cargo data. And so kind of all together, that kind of summarizes what, we'll be helping Laredo with at the conference that's in Las Vegas over the next week. And finally, on the bottom right, just real quick, that's the grant again for $250,000 in federal funding to support the marketing efforts. And so another thing that GRA will be doing is helping Laredo with implementing that plan. And, we would plan to, coordinate that with the airlines to try to make best use of the money. So I guess any other questions at this point?
Like, in your data that you've been reviewing, like where are the, may not be profitable yet, but where are the secondary destinations that people are going from here? Or
So some of the, the most, heavily traveled routes are kind of, some of the ones that maybe wouldn't be too likely to get service in the near term from Laredo, but those would be places further away like New York City or Chicago. So those are the ones that are big, but maybe less promising. But, on the more promising side are larger markets like Los Angeles, Orlando or South Florida, including Miami, and Denver are some of the, ones that are passenger numbers. And kind of on all three of those fronts, you know, particularly for Allegiant, for Los Angeles and Orlando, we've talked to them about that route. For Denver, Denver's a big market, especially, you know, since the pandemic from Laredo. And, you know, we've talked to Frontier about that because Frontier has a hub in Denver. So these are all kind of cities and markets that we've been looking at over the years and, you know, continuing to present to the airlines to try to make the case for service in Laredo.
Why wouldn't American or United, right, American and United fly here? Why wouldn't they do a plane to Vegas? You know, do they have to have at least one flight daily or multiple flights daily because of the gates or what? Instead of
right, so those airlines, like you mentioned, they do prefer to fly, you know, at least once a day or a couple times a day. And then the other factor there is that, you know, Las Vegas isn't a hub for either of those two airlines. So that's kind of one of the big reasons. Right now, you know, people traveling from Laredo, they can have, you know, fairly good service through either Dallas or Houston on American or United. And then obviously they've got the nonstop option twice a week on Allegiant.
because you were talking earlier about going to San Antonio. I'm just looking, Frontier, you know, they're anywhere from $41 to $80 to fly to Las Vegas from San Antonio.
Right.
And so,
Right,
you
and
know,
that's certainly a factor that's, yeah,
and,
certainly
you
a
know,
factor
just-
that's having people try it.
you said Los Angeles, you know, I don't know, New Orleans or something, Cancun, I mean, it seems like that would be a big attraction, you know, LA or, you know, any of the Disney spots, obviously, that may be seasonal, but I would think Orlando would be good. I was just wondering.
And like you said, Cancun is certainly a very large international destination. And when we met with Frontier within the past year, we did, you know, we talked to them about Cancun as well because they do fly there.
So if you did,
And just picking up on your point about United and American, you know, they do tend to have different business models in that they do want to fly, you know, pretty much every day. Or Sun Country or Allegiant is much more willing to fly twice a week or 3 times a week, which is probably, you know, what would be right for a market like Orlando, in particular, or Cancun. So, you know, those are probably the airlines that are more likely to serve those kinds of markets. And the other piece is they United in America.
Huh?
Sorry, go ahead.
You know, we had Orlando for a while.
yeah.
I don't know how it did, but
Oh, I mean, obviously, but, you know, we're a lot bigger than we used to be, but I was saying Las Vegas, maybe they're better off in here than Allegiant or Aramar. You know, we can get them to do one flight daily to each one of those cities, you know, not every day to the same city, but saying Las Vegas one day, Orlando the next day, and, you know, something.
I'm surprised Aramar didn't pick.
Maybe a stop in Mexico City and go on to Cancun, you know, maybe with even not a direct flight, but maybe it gets you something, you know, get some ridership. But, no, I was just wondering what it's gonna take, and I know that, we're kinda limited, but like I say, a lot of my friends do drive to San Antonio to go to Vegas because back and supposed to be here at, you know, 9 or whatever, and they get here at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, you know, or
the next day.
yeah, or the next day, and so it's very unreliable.
They're getting better.
Yeah, I think that.
Much better.
Until you
Yeah,
know when
I
it's
do
left.
think.
No, they're getting much
But I'm
better.
just saying, you know, you got an appointment or something, you know you. Monday morning, you know, and you can't take that chance.
Yeah, I do think Allegiant, you know, certainly they had a lot of reliability issues going back a few years, and of course, you know, any particular flight. That they have much newer airplanes. I think back when they flew from Laredo to Orlando, they were flying the MD-80s. Still, which are very old and unreliable airplanes, and they've modernized their fleet quite a bit since then.
And have you had conversations with them about Orlando again, or anything?
We have, but it's definitely, next week. So that's definitely something we'll be talking about. We're also talking, in addition to Allegiant, we're talking to the airport in Orlando as well to try to coordinate interest from that side of the equation, because if they're about an Orlando flight, that's two voices in their ears are sometimes more powerful than just one.
Does Kissimmee have an airport? I know they have the private one, but I don't know if they have a.
Who?
Sorry, what was the
I call it
question?
Kissimmee. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it. Kissimmee.
No,
Kissimmee.
Kissimmee.
Oh, Kissimmee.
Kissimmee. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that they have a commercial. There are two, there's Orlando International, which is where a lot of the airlines fly. There's Orlando Stanford, which is where Allegiant flies. There's an airport in Melbourne as well, which markets itself as Orlando, even though it's about an hour away, I think. That's what I'm aware of. Mitch, is there anything else?
Right, I don't think Kissimmee has airline flights. It doesn't look like, just private aviation flights.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, the other piece I just wanted to mention, I'm sure you've all read the stories about the pilot shortage in the country, and that is definitely something that is a factor for United and American. United is still at only 2 flights a day to Houston, when they have previously been at 3. American is down to either 3 or 4 frequencies, depending on the month, to DFW. And a lot of that is because of the challenge in finding regional airline pilots, which is affecting the entire industry. And in fact, United has stopped service to a number of regional markets. So fortunately, Laredo is not in that group, but it is something that has resulted in reduced service because they're just having a very hard time finding enough pilots right now.
Right. Any more
Thank you, guys.
questions for GRA?
No? Good.
All right. Thank you, David. And Mitch.
Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care. We'll back up.
Bye.
All right.
Hopefully you'll have good meetings in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we hope to. Yeah.
And
So-
luck at the table. Or slot machine, whatever you put.
Yeah. So
Is
basically,
there somebody else on the,
yeah,
Elizabeth?
we can tackle that item.
do you want to tackle that item so they don't have to be waiting?
So I will need a motion to
Make a motion.
action item number 1.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Action item number 1, consideration to recommend to the mayor and city council the authorization to the interim city manager to adopt and implement the Laredo International Airport's updated noise exposure maps, NEMs, in concurrence with the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, record of approval date August 25th, 2022. The updated noise exposure maps were prepared in accordance with 14 CFR Part 150 Airport Noise Compatibility Planning. Said maps will remain in effect for the next 5 years and will serve as a basis for analyzing and comparing operational noise abatement procedure alternatives and evaluating land use related noise mitigation measures and providing for an effective date. This item is going into the voice map. We had our several to speak more on this process. We have our consultants, Amanda Cronley from RSNH and Dave Full. So if you can take over on this, Dave and Amanda.
Yes, indeed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry, I am actually in a hospital visiting my brother, so that's why I have the mask on. So just so nobody freaks out about that. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to show you, hopefully you can see it. Can I get a thumbs up that you can see it? Perfect. So what I'm showing you, we've done the noise exposure maps, the NEM.
Can you go full screen?
And okay, sure. Sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, is that better?
There you go.
Better.
Okay, good. Yeah, you got to be able to see these. Existing conditions, and those existing conditions are from 2019. So they do show the noise contours that existed prior to the pandemic. That's really important because we wanted to make sure that being affected by the pandemic. So these are noise contours from 2019. We worked with the FAA to make sure they were good with that approach, and they were very good with that approach. And what you can see is that we've shown what is the 65 contour. That's the biggest contour there. And the 65 is important because that is in accordance with FAA guidance and policy. The 65 contour is considered to be where significant noise impacts occur. So, and part of their process in determining what areas can actually be subject to mitigation measures that will be sponsored by the FAA, they use the 65 as that metric to be able to do that. So this shows you the existing NEMs from 2019, and then the next one I'm going to show you is the ones for the future, okay? And those are for 2026. And the way we develop those is to look at the forecast of operations that are forecast to occur at the airport in 2026, and we run that same noise model associated with that change in operations. And when I talk about the change in operations, it's not just the total number, but it's the type of aircraft, and it's also when those aircraft fly. Because the...
Oh, no. Oh, we lost him.
So the existing is the ones with the lines right now, the black lines?
Yes.
The 2019?
So yes, it's still the black lines, and if you look at those, you can. It's hard to differentiate between the two. The shape of those contours is very similar, but as I was saying, is that those nighttime noise, the nighttime operations are actually treated a little bit differently. So your cargo flights that you have there at Laredo, they help influence the size and the shape of the contour, and those were included in the development of these noise contours. Now, the next one I'm going to show you is actually a comparison between the existing and the future, so you can see where the differences in those contours have occurred. So that's what this one. Okay, why isn't it letting me go forward? There we go. That's this one here. And you can see primarily that the difference in the contours exist at the far ends of each one. Off to the right side, or what I would say south of the airport, there is the contours get just a little bit bigger. You can barely see the difference there between the red and the black line. The red line is the future, the black is the existing. You can see a greater difference at the north, on the north side of the airport, where there is a little bit greater size on the contour. They extend a little bit further out. And again, that's primarily because of those nighttime cargo operations at Laredo. So these are the differences that we're looking at between the two different noise contours, between the existing and the future. Now, why that's important is that as we go into the next phase of this process, we are going to be updating the noise compatibility program, And these contours help inform us as to what areas can be included within the noise compatibility program. The FAA is very, they don't like to spend money just to spend money. They want to make sure that it's being spent in areas where it's truly needed. So we use these areas to help inform any changes in the area that's subject to the noise compatibility program. And we'll be doing that update next. Now, these maps that I've shown you have been, they've been approved by the FAA. The FAA has done their detailed, diligent review of these maps, and they have approved the maps from their standpoint. So what we're hoping for is to go before City Council, and for City Council then to accept these maps as well, so that we can move into the next phase of the noise compatibility program process.
What choice do they have?
Well, the city then at an impasse between the city not accepting it, but the FAA approving it, and we'd have to get into some discussions with the FAA about why would the city not accept these noise contours? What are the issues? And if there are legitimate issues that the city has with respect to the contours, then we'd want to discuss.
Register.
Yeah?
Yes.
Do we have other questions?
Do they, I was just thinking, will they have will they designate them minimal noise airports and things like that, where, I know like out of Santa Monica, when you take off, you go almost straight up, to the best you can, to make sure you're not flying over any celebrity's house too loud,
Right. So that is one of the things that we take a look at as part of the noise compatibility program. Are there changes in operations that can occur? Are there changes in the flight path? Are there changes in way aircraft operate into and out of the airport that would help alleviate the noise, the significant noise effects that occur in the vicinity of the airport? That would be part of the next step when we get into the noise compatibility program. We do have to take a look at potential operational changes at the airport to help mitigate the noise impacts.
And what about this?
So what you just described is something that occurred as a result of this sort of program at that airport.
Yeah. And then in 2020, I think it was, when they had, I don't know what it was called, but they took some planes out of service because they couldn't comply with the engine noise. And you've seen all these, the big Gulfstreams with hush kits and stuff on them, and so I don't know. You're probably getting a lot quieter aircraft.
Yeah.
Operating now than that used to be.
That is correct. I mean, you could have an increase in operations, but because over time aircraft engines continue to be quieter than they have been in the past, the contours could actually shrink because of the change in the overall aircraft fleet mix at an airport. So you have a very good point there that as older planes get retired, that gets factored into the running of the noise model and the contours that then come out of that noise model.
Yeah.
Do any airports charge fees for, like, say, an older aircraft that may generate more noise, a landing fee, saying you're coming in?
No, it's based on weight. It's based on weight only.
I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yes, thank you, Alejandro.
Because some places you can't land if you get a loud plane.
Yeah.
That's one of the older ones.
Well, Amanda, I don't know if you have anything to say on that particular topic, since you were the noise officer there at San Antonio for a while. If you have any experience on that specifically as well.
I mean, it'd be more on the private side probably than the public side. But they still
I just
contribute.
that specifically, but there were instances where we tried to maybe discourage folks from nighttime activity. But again, it's a public use airport, and you have to be able to afford them the opportunity to land and take off based on the schedule that they makes best business sense for their cases. So, we just tried to work with them in that regard.
Laredo having smaller passenger planes, the cargo doesn't want to be affected.
Well, what about, is the military aircraft that comes and lands here, is that skewing any of those things? I mean, obviously it's not like Lackland or whatever, but you're getting, F-15s, F-16s coming in here, and they're not the quietest things around. And so do we say, hey, you gotta adjust this for us?
Touch and go, yeah.
Huh?
They touch and go.
Yeah, so, those are actually,
You're full thrust going out.
yep, those are actually included in the noise model as well, because they are included in the overall forecast operations. And so when we talk about the different type of operations at the airport, military is just one category. We include commercial aircraft, cargo aircraft, general aviation aircraft. We even did helicopters here at Laredo as well. So all of those have been included in the noise model. So yes, we know there's military aircraft there, and yes, that's included in what you're looking at.
I know, but what I'm asking is, can we show, if you did a model excluding military, would it reduce?
I mean, that's something we could take a look at. We haven't run that. That would just be rerunning the contour and taking out those military aircraft and seeing what the change in the contour could possibly be.
Not saying that we don't want the aircraft, but we're just...
David, just show them the circle for the CBP helicopters if you go back.
I saw it.
If you go back, you saw it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, that's a circle. Yeah, that circle is for the CBP helicopters, yeah.
What I was just saying, so we're saying, hey, if you're gonna affect us, then maybe you need to give us a little more money. Okay?
I agree.
So I'm saying, that's why if we could use that, if we can demonstrate that this, noise thing is coming from the military, maybe we can use that
probably
to
start
leverage.
charging the touch and goes. I don't know how feasible is that, but there's something that we can, because we don't charge landing fees to touch and goes because technically they're not landing.
Well, they do land though sometimes.
Sometimes
they go there,
they land.
when they
Break
go
down, sometimes
They are. But and we have an item for automated billing. We'll get to that one. Maybe we can speak about it.
That's the little circle that you see for the CBP.
No, I'm just saying, well, we can, if we can get that and show just military saying, all right, we want you all, but hey, I think we use it for grants.
No, you're killing us. I mean, when they take all the trucks lighting the fuse, Mark II, and I'm like, oh man.
So.
Mr. Sanchez, do you project acquiring more properties?
With the lines, well, the problem there is that most of the people don't want to sell, so we're just basically doing noise abatement.
Yeah, we can't read
But
the
you are
legend. What is
doing
the red?
We can purchase.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Red, yellow, red and yellow, really.
So yeah, the red there is commercial retail. Those are land uses. The yellow is single family residential. And then you also see some orange in there. That orange is multifamily residential.
But you don't show which one has done the noise abatement? So which one, it doesn't differentiate, which one we've done noise abatement on?
Yeah, so noise abatement has occurred at a variety of properties. That would be a separate map. I don't have that that I can show you right now, but there is a map that does show that.
Yeah, we have a map that shows which ones all the
Been
properties.
abated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just saying. Okay.
Okay. I think that's it for noise. Any more questions for the noise? All right, so I will need a...
Move to approve it and send it to City Council?
Second.
Okay. Motion, anybody, we already had discussion, any additional discussion or no?
All right.
I would ask, though, if it's not too difficult, if we can get that military, what's the terminology for that? Model, so we can see if there's a difference, that maybe we can use that for future grants, a little leverage.
Okay.
Yeah, we can run that.
That's a good point.
All right, we'll take that into the request.
Can we
And-
continue with the action items?
Yes.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah,
we were
because
5
we
minutes
need
to
yeah.
our hour, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you, David and Amanda. That will be it for your item.
Do we need a
Have a good
motion on that to
afternoon.
move forward with the other stuff, or is it just already?
No, it's just. Sandra, if you can read the following items.
We're gonna bring up, bring up action item number 2 then.
Motion to continue on with the action items. And all-
Right, it was-
Approved motion,
Yes.
Liz?
Yeah, 2 and 3.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Move forward.
Consideration for approval to award a construction contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Rim Construction, Inc., Mission, Texas, in the amount of $9,629,230 for the Laredo International Airport construction. AA with the construction contract. Item for 450 calendar days, and authorizing the city manager to execute all related contract documents contingent upon receipt and approval of insurance and bond documents. After a notice to proceed is issued, a limited completion date for project is scheduled for April 2024. Funding is available in the Airport Construction Fund, FAA Grant number 100, FAA Grant 101, FAA Grant 90, and a drawdown from Airport Operations Fund.
Cor-
Need a motion?
Correction here, it's not a drawdown, it's gonna be from regular operations. But
Okay.
it's-
First one, motion was with Mr. Galo, second,
Second.
George. Okay, now discussion. You said most of the 9 million is gonna be done through the grants, right?
Yeah.
How much is gonna be done through?
And just here on a note, there were 2 bidders, one Summit and the other one was RIM. The lowest responsible bidder was RIM.
What does that mean?
It means that FAA has a requirement of 20% of their.
I mean, Summit.
Summit, yeah. Summit was sub 90% of the work. So through FAA regulations. And purchasing materials, that's the 10% of the work. So
Everything
based
else
on
was
that,
contracted out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all serious.
We
So-
have worked with RIM before, right?
yeah, they're here. They've been here forever.
They've been here for the last 20 years.
Yeah, they're highway contractor.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Move forward.
What was the one that was over?
RIM,
Passed over?
RIM was,
So-
yeah,
Summit.
Summit.
Huh?
523,000.
Yes.
The fees.
Okay,
That's, a lot for that requirement. Huh?
Yeah.
But I mean,
It's a
FAA,
federal bid requirement.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's a federal bid
I
requirement.
know, I'm just saying,
Yeah. yes.
staying local and then probably using the same contractors as Raymond.
Suppliers, yeah.
So,
Inside information.
well, I guess they just need to buy some equipment.
Summit building
Basically.
did not meet the notice.
Item number 3, Sandra, please.
Did it pass? I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
Consideration for approval of amendment number 1, an increase of $598,763.57 for a professional service contract with RSNH Inc., San Antonio, Texas, for the Laredo International Airport to construct taxiway H1 and H2 and reconstruct a portion of taxiway A. This amendment number 1 is to provide construction administration services, full-time resident project representative, RPR services, construction materials testing services, and direct expenses to construct taxiway H1 and H2 and construct taxiway A. Current contract amount with this amendment is $1,134,316.57. Funding is available in the Airport Construction Fund, FAA Grant number 100.
Question, I don't know, At the county, we have maximum you can go on a change order is 25%.
A change order is only for construction contract, this is a professional
Professional
service
services.
contract. Professional service contracts are not subject to 25%.
Okay, and why is there a change order?
Okay, the amendment is because the majority of our contracts, the airport advance the money for the design and bid services. We go out and design it, get the bid. Then once we have the hard bid, we go to FAA, and that's when we get the grant. So once we get the grant, we get reimbursed for the design and the bid process. Then we award the construction contract, which I did during construction. And then now we have to have the consultant for the construction phase of the contract. Are always in two phases. First phase is design and bid, get the grant, and then we amend the contract for the construction administration phase. The construction administration phase is for all the testing, all the RPR, where FAA requires a 100%.
So what does this
inspection.
come out as a percentage of the contract?
It's about 50%, but
15%?
Yeah.
yeah, but it doesn't matter. Professional services are not subject.
I understand that, but I'm saying.
The full contract is $1.1 million. It's
No,
just divided
no,
into
but
phases.
the full contract is $11 million, and you got the design and.
Oh, it's about 10%.
Huh?
More than-
No,
Yes.
now you're at 1.5 or 1.6 million, right?
1.1.
1.1 million.
It basically doubled the amount.
Whoa.
Okay.
They do that so they're not on the hook for the second part until they get the grant, is what I think he's saying, right?
Right.
Basically.
Basically.
Okay. Right. So I made the motion.
But the 25% is not subject to professional services.
Did you already make the motion?
Yes.
Second?
Any more discussion?
No?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to staff reports. Or you wanna do
Do you want to do your request before?
request?
Because, yeah, we're
I mean,
probably
the
gonna lose
reports
some
are,
people
the
in the middle,
reports are
so.
there, yeah.
Just what I'll do, then we'll go back to staff reports, please.
Okay, we'll go to this request.
Request, please.
Yeah, we agreement with Rafael Dueñas. Basically, nothing has happened. No, I was in Leon a couple of months ago. He was there, but nothing, at least nothing has been billed to the airport.
So nothing has been paid out?
Nothing
or
has been
anything?
paid out.
That means he hasn't done.
A request from Joel Benavides, status update on the Laredo International Airport financial reports and budget and financial policy. I know you were drilling my assistant director that specializes on construction without me being here on the finances. I hope I don't get drilled on construction when he's not around. So basically, we submit everything last meeting, and he, as I recall, he wanted to know about the investment policy. Is just basically boring stuff. I mean, it's just we invest on the everything is here on the financial policy, but it's basically COs and bonds approved by government. We do fall under all the requirement from the federal government to invest on secure assets. Nothing fancy, nothing
I don't
crazy.
remember, what was the conversation about, Judge?
I wasn't here.
The question was,
It was to know
The
how
blacklist.
they were spending all the part of the money and where it was going to. If I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember.
Was this
Yeah,
at
we
the
did.
last meeting?
Yeah.
or-
Yes.
Yeah, it all goes into a pool and everything gets into a derivatives or any hedging or anything like that going on the
You're
city
talking about the money
finances.
that you have.
The city, the money that we have on the bank right now.
Yeah, it's basically part of a loan.
Yeah. No, it's our money, but we basically put it on a certificate of deposit, a government instrument. There's nothing, no type of stock investment or mutual funds that are approved, but the ones with the very low risk, basically. So moving on.
So this was the financials were
Yeah, the
were
financials.
part of that, but as of June.
report from finance. I know they're not audited, but
Right.
that's what we get here. It is one audit at the end of the year. And we do get audit from the FAA every now and then. And if there was something wrong with our finances, FAA wouldn't be giving us any more money. And luckily enough, we've been getting a lot of money lately from FAA.
Okay.
So moving on request from Robert Judd Gilpin, presentation on the approved land use plan for the Laredo International Airport Master and Development Plan Agreement between
I'd
the
defer
Laredo.
that until the next meeting myself.
Okay.
I think it's the kind of thing we'll talk about for a while, a little late.
Yeah.
Just I want to add as well, I know that there's been some discussion on a proposal or study for another airport there in.
Oh, the cargo airport.
Cargo airport,
Yeah.
I'll add that for the next meeting as well, so any kind of information can be provided. They've been consulting here with the airport here. I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna do that, then you might wanna go back to these people and say, do a model only, take out cargo and see what it does.
Yeah, but that's several years down the line, that's not
Well, no,
immediate.
but I'm saying, you know, like I say, if you want a cargo airport, you can say, here it is, you know, showing that.
Well, all I have to say on that is that it's not going to be an easy task. I mean, doing a cargo-only airport on Mile 13 or whatever mile it is. I mean, just to construct the taxiways and the runways, I mean, you're talking about millions and millions of dollars, and you won't get the FAA to support that to begin with. So you're looking
Because
at,
we already have this airport that's a cargo airport.
yes, and they're investing.
Didn't the
They're
Navy just,
investing in the runways.
They're investing.
Yeah, and all the
And did you guys put down
repairs.
some additional cement here so you could
Yeah.
set heavier
So you
weight,
could
right?
Yeah, so
Because there were
we're,
some comments that were made by somebody, and I sit there, I didn't agree with it, but I know that we have heavier weight that we can accept here, and even in San Antonio, I believe, right?
yes, I mean, we're able to support the Antonov, which is the biggest plane here. It landed already here once, so.
So where is this coming from there?
Well, basically the noise complaint. I mean, the noise. Yeah, we do get the noise, and for more capacity down the road, because obviously the idea is to grow the cargo, but we do have plenty of space right now. I mean, the future, 20, 30 years down the road, yeah. We might
Well,
look
more than
into
anything
that.
else, it's for the sake of time, I just want to sit there and see if we can provide more information and
Sure.
get back on our agenda.
what about the Navy strip that's out here on 359? They're not using it anymore, are they?
Not sure.
Is that the old strip that's on the Schwartz place? Or
Oh,
I'm not sure about that one.
What about it?
I haven't seen any of that.
You already got runways.
Why invest in more, just fix them up? Instead of having to put down a lot of money.
It's based
Well-
on the design of the runway, on the taxiways, the weight of the
The
cargo.
weight
No, I
of the
understand that,
airplane,
I'm saying,
yeah.
but you already have a base runway.
Yeah.
You could overlay or.
It'd be interesting to know what capability it has, because, you know, it might have just been size, but
Yeah, those
lighter.
little,
Smaller.
those little jet fighters.
All right, with that, moving forward, any additional items that were comments made for the next meeting? Anybody?
They're not second.
Got a second.
Is there anything that stands out that we need to know?
No, well,
No, any
we-
major changes? Yeah.
Just the changes in the way the information was.
Yeah,
calculated.
the changes that we changed the information based on the request that you all,
Yeah, yes, pre-COVID.
we got that year, and we separated the airlines. I just noticed it that the percentage are wrong here. I mean, they're taking the full year, not the cumulative year. So if you see a minus 14% here on American, for instance, that is taking the 100, the minus 100, those 4 months, which we have not received any information, and that's why you see. But basically, we are seeing an increase compared to those years. So we'll correct the formula for next year, make it cumulative.
How about the agenda items that are on the staff report?
Sure, we can go real quick through those.
Is there anything, I mean,
Yeah, anything that needs done?
Well,
in New England
Because they were
report, we don't-
presented already.
yeah, I just want to comment on the agenda item, on the third one. As I mentioned, to get a software for automatic billing system for the landing. So on that, we should be able to capture everyone that lands here, and on that software has the particular feature than about the touch and go. So that's something that we can discuss if we can start charging touch and goes. If that's something we want to or would like us to explore, we can definitely can go that route with this software, because they'll catch all the information and they build them automatically. And the good thing about this is that aside from catching everyone, in the long run, we won't need personnel outside on the FIS. So through attrition, we might be able
Why
to
don't
eliminate
you
positions.
approach Henry on that before you?
Yeah, well, that's something that we can explore, obviously. And we're not saying that we'll do it or we'll not do it, but we can obviously explore it to see if we
Options.
if it would be.
Before you piss them off, no, we're not gonna land there.
And this basically, we were collecting this, as you see, it's a 1-year period. We just want to try it out. We were collecting around $1.2 million in fees. So obviously, if the collection still want to share 1.2 or 1.2 we collect. The idea is to collect more than that, of 1.8, $2 million. And if that's the case, we'll keep them for more years. So that's basically, and the other one is the selection of RSNH, the other one. You talk to them, and we invite a couple of board members to the selection committee. Mr. JD was one of them. Carlos was not able to make it, but there were 5 firms, and RSNH was selected. And Mr. JD was here, and he knew.
That's the cycle, so.
They seem the most qualified anyway, so.
Yeah.
All right, any additional comments that we gotta discuss?
Nope, or
Move to
unless you
adjourn.
have
A
a
motion?
Second.
Second, okay.
Right.
Hold on. Just
Thank
go
you
all
so
in
much.
favor.